What I really like people to understand is that the quality of your life is the quality of your emotions. If you have $1 billion and every day your habitual emotions are feeling frustrated and stressed and overwhelmed, your life is called frustrated, stressed, and overwhelmed. If you have 3 beautiful children and a great husband or a wife or boyfriend or girlfriend, and every day you worry, your life is not love, your life is worry. It doesn't matter how you have this beautiful family. So think of it, emotions control the quality of our life because your mental emotional state is the single most important ingredient to not only success, but fulfillment. And most of us do not know how to manage it. And when I say manage it, I'm really talking about your mind and your emotions, right? Those are the 2 things that if you can master those, because most people are trying to master the outside world, and you can't control the outside world. You can influence it. But the one thing you can control is how you use your mind, what you do with your emotions. When you're upset with someone, do you ever notice how you can now remember everything that they've ever done that ever upset you, right? Yes. But when you're in love, what's wrong with life? What's wrong with anything? When you're in love, we have no money. Who cares? We're in love, right? So your emotional state controls the story you have about your life, and then your story determines whether you find a strategy, or even if you know the strategy, whether you really do it or not. See, the reason a person is making progress, they may not know what to do. Sometimes that's true. But some people know what to do and they don't do what they know. That's most people. Yes. And so why? They have a story that says, it's a set of beliefs they tell themselves over and again. I've tried everything. What they're really telling me is I have a story that says I should try this, but it's really not gonna work. So I give it a half-weird attempt and it didn't work, and now I can tell people I tried. What you really gotta do is learn to change your emotion, your state, change your story, and then you can find the strategy, or you can make the strategy to work. Warren Buffett says you're not gonna beat the index fund. So why would you pay for it? Check this number out. If you're listening, you gotta watch and listen. Over any 10-year period of time, 96% of all mutual funds don't match the market that you could have got for next to nothing. By the way, he bet a group of hedge fund guys 5 years ago, protege partners, he said, you pick a group of hedge funds, pick the top 5 you want. Hedge funds, this is what the wealthy people invest in. And I'll beat you with the index, I bet you $1 million. And right now, it's not yet done. I think there's 4 more years left, but he's up like 20%, 25% above it. I believe that leadership is really a skill of influence. It is the most important skill that any human being can master. And I don't think of leadership as a position. I see it as a skill, a tool that all of us have to have. In other words, the quality of your life, I really believe, comes down to your level of leadership. Other people don't have to follow you to be a leader, but you have to live life on your terms. And the first person you have to influence is yourself. So I think to be able to influence the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, and the actions of another human being, that's what leadership is. And quality leadership, obviously authentic leadership, is one where it's servant leadership. You're looking to influence those thoughts, feelings, emotions, and actions for a greater good, not just for yourself. And I think the people that master that are the people that you know about. I mean, they're the captains of industry. They're people that are celebrities because they learned how to influence people. They are some of the greatest teachers, some of the greatest scientists, because you can't just come up with ideas. Ideas will die on your lips unless you become a person of influence, and that's what leadership is. The human brain is a distortion, deletion, and generalization device. Your conscious mind can only handle so many things at once. You're not thinking about your clothing touching your skin, or the sound of your heartbeat till I mention it, or let's say the sound of in your ear of being able to hear that heartbeat. All those things I have to call your attention to, because your brain is deleting most of what's going on so it's not overwhelmed consciously. So we pay attention to a small amount of things. So if you're really happy, you're deleting all the things that could piss you off or make you worried. If you're really worried, you're deleting all the things you could be grateful or happy about. And we tend to generalize our lives because we're cognitive misers. We don't want to think things through. There's 3 Ps that you got to annihilate, crush, or destroy if they're getting in the way of your progress in a relationship, or your career, or your happiness, or your health. These are the 3 Ps that make learned helplessness. Number 1, you think the problem is permanent. Once you've had enough disappointment, sometimes your brain doesn't want to get disappointed, so it's a permanent problem. Please write down, no problem is permanent, only your soul is permanent. Nothing's forever. Everything changes, everything eventually ends, and something new begins. That's part of life. Those are the seasons of life. The second P that keeps people in learned helplessness so they don't change, this belief's got to be annihilated, broken through, and that it's pervasive. That means that because my relationship's not great, my whole life is horrible. Then you're forgetting you do have health, or you do have friends, or you do have a job, or you do have whatever. I can breathe. And the third one is we think the problem is personal. There's something wrong with me. And if you start believing that, it becomes self-fulfilling. You give up. See, I'm not good enough. I'm not beautiful enough. I'm not smart enough. I always screw it up. So those 3 Ps got to be destroyed. We're emotional creatures. And we forget that because we live in a society that tries to value thought much more than emotion, because emotion is scary for us. Emotion can come really fast. And so some people try to avoid it at all costs, other people are overwhelmed by it. My view is that emotional intelligence is a wonderful thing, but I much prefer emotional fitness. Intelligence is a capability. Fitness is a state of readiness. And what I do is I train myself to always be ready, and that makes you execute. And I think too many people settle for, I know this, as opposed to I'm doing this. And I try to train myself and others to be in that state of readiness all the time, because that's where life is really fulfilled at the highest level, I think. If you're really frustrated or sad or worried or depressed, or you think something horrible's happened, my favorite question to ask myself is, what else could this mean? And I make myself come up with at least 3 different meanings, because what happens is beliefs become self-fulfilling. See, once you believe something, you don't see anything else. I've done this with your audience before. I said, look around the room and find brown. Everybody looks around. And I say, now with your eyes closed, tell me if you saw that was red. And nobody sees much red. And I say, open your eyes, look for red. And they find more red. Why do you find more red? Because you get what you look for. Your beliefs condition you to find. And then I say, how many saw, I said, you even saw things that weren't there. How many saw beige stuff, called it brown just to feel successful? And they all laugh. How many saw burgundy and called it red? They all laugh. And the reason is because once we're after something, we'll even make the color different to feel successful. If you think somebody's mean, you'll find meanness in them if it's not there. If you think somebody's your dear friend and they do something terrible, you'll say, oh, they're having a bad day. So our beliefs control us. So unquestioned beliefs that produce stress, those are the ones you've got to question. Specifically, there was a study where they took a group of actors, they had them go out to 200 people, and the only thing different, they walked up to each person, and the only different was they held a cup of coffee, they walk up to you, a stranger, and go, would you hold this for a second? They look down so you can't say yes or no, and you'd end up taking it. They get their phone, they adjust it, they take it back and say thank you. That's the whole thing. Same facial expression for every person. Only difference, half got an iced coffee, the other got hot coffee. Now, 30 minutes go by. They send out an assistant, a research assistant with a clipboard, and they come up to these same individuals and say, if you give us 2 minutes of your time, we'll give you $20. Will you just read these 3 paragraphs and tell us what you think of this character? A couple questions. They read the 3 paragraphs and they say, what do you think of the main character in this little story? 81% that were given iced coffee say the person is cold and uncaring. 80%, a 1% variance of those who are hot coffee say the person is warm and connected and caring, with nothing else but coffee 30 minutes earlier, ice cold. Most people think their thoughts are their thoughts, when really your thoughts have been primed by the environment. There's a gentleman named Theodore Johnson who is amazing. He worked for UPS, started as a driver, never made more than $14,000 total in a year. That was his highest salary in a year. In his old age, he's worth $70 million. And how did he do it? All he did was what I teach is the first step is you gotta take a percentage of what you earn and pretend it's a tax. You're never gonna see that money again. You automate it, it goes straight to the investment account, and you never see it as money you can spend. He did that with 20%. He said, I can't save 5. Somebody in his family said, if there was a tax, you'd pay it, and they made it 20%. When you save 20% and you compound it, its numbers are incredible. So you can't wait till you have a ton of money to start investing and think, I'm not an investor. What you gotta do is say, rather than my Apple phone, let me own Apple stock. Let me own a piece of all the best companies, not just Apple. I've got to become an owner or I'll always be in scarcity. If you can invest in business, even a small amount, you can grow. I don't care how small it is, but you got to automate it.